All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to my live stream. Thank you for joining, everybody. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate it. I can see 3 people at the moment who has joined. So I would really appreciate if you can type your name, where are you currently based, what time zone would that be. It's currently morning where I am right now. I'm based in Brisbane. I'm in UTC plus 10, so it's 10 a.m. And I don't know why. I think this is the third time when I stream and it's raining outside. I'm not sure if you can hear the sound of the rain. Yeah, last time when I streamed with Jeff Gothelf and also Peter Fader, it was raining outside. I don't know. I guess I'm just unlucky. Anyway, folks, thank you for joining, and I really appreciate all of your support to this channel. And as you may have noticed, this channel has reached a new milestone. Yes, a new milestone. That is 10,000 subscribers. All thanks to you, everybody. Thanks to you that this channel has reached a new milestone, as I have promised. Yes, when I reached a new milestone, when I reached 10k subscribers, I will dye my hair blue. I'm not sure if you can see it. Probably I'll give you a different angle. Yes, my hair is blue. I'm not sure if you saw the video that I uploaded last night when I went to the salon yesterday and dyed my hair. So there it is. Thank you. Now I am kind of under pressure. I'm thinking about what should I do next for the next milestone. I think the next milestone might be reaching 20k or maybe 50k subscribers. I don't know. Let me know down below what should I do next for the next milestone. Yeah, what would be a good number? 20k? 50k? What do you think? Yeah, let me know what should I do next in the next milestone. I can see 3 people already. It would be appreciated if you can let us know, everybody, your name, where are you currently based, what time zone where you're at. I'm based in Brisbane, Australia. So this live stream will be a light session. I'll be answering any questions that you may have for me around Scrum. Or, yeah, you can ask me anything personal also, okay? I'll do my best to answer any personal questions. Yes. I hope everyone is doing well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. If it's night, where you're currently at. Several people sent me messages yesterday. Some people are based in Europe, and they told me that they couldn't make it because it's around midnight in Europe at the moment. And we got Manny from Sydney. Yes, welcome, Manny. I think you are in the same time zone with me, UTC plus 10. Glad to have you here, Manny. Anyone else? I can see it's kind of dropping on and off between 3 to 5 people. This is great, actually. With lesser people joining, you can ask lots more questions from me. I'm planning to do this for 1 hour. So for the next 1 hour, I'll try to attend to your questions. Anything on Scrum. Ask me anything on Scrum, folks. What challenges are you facing at the moment? In your team, in your organizations, if you're currently in a task or in an engagement to transform the enterprise or the organization towards agility, let me know. I have quite dozens of experience, not only working at the team level as a Scrum Master, but also at the enterprise level, working with senior management, to help the company become more agile. Yeah, all right, so let me see. Yes, here we go. Yes, what questions do you have for me today? Oh, we got someone from Canada. Uh, can you let us know what is your real name so I wouldn't be calling you with your channel name, Healthy with Bena. Thank you. Wow, this is awesome. Awesome. I think it's around what time is it? Bena at the moment in Canada. I think it's around nighttime, but you're a day behind us, right? So we're from the future. All right. Welcome, Bena. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, we got 6 people now. Yes, it's dropping on and off. Great to have everyone here. And thank you for everyone who has just joined. I would like to sincerely thank you for your support to this channel. As you may have noticed, that this channel has reached a new milestone, 10,000 subscribers. So when I initially started this channel, it was out of quote unquote fun. Like I just did it for fun. So if you look at like my very first video on this channel, I was talking about the beginner's mind because at that time I went to Japan. I had an engagement with a client. To be more specific, it was in Yokohama, Japan. So I visit, it was a Zen Buddhist temple there, and I learned about the beginner's mind. And as you can see in the very first video, I kind of, it's not really a good video. I didn't know how to talk in front of the camera. I didn't know what to say. And the reason why I started that, this channel in general, and why I uploaded that first video to this channel, because one of my students who attended my PSM training, she told me that, hey, why don't you upload videos on Scrum whenever you visit cities or towns where you're teaching. There's not many like trainers who does that, or there's not many YouTubers or content creators who talk about Scrum while traveling. And she said that would be cool. And she said that she would be the very first subscribers if I ever going to initiate that kind of channel. And I thought, what? YouTube channel? No, that's not something that I would like to do. But her idea was intriguing. It was interesting. So I said, yeah, why not? I've got nothing to lose. Nobody probably will watch it anyway. So I started uploading like very few videos. And I think if you may have noticed, the several few videos was when I traveled like several cities, Japan, and then when I went to Italy, I uploaded video, I think several videos when I went to Italy, Venice, the Tower of Pisa. Where was that? Dang it, I forgot. When I went to Tower of Pisa, and then when I went to Singapore. So it interestingly, several people got interested, and then around early 2020, March 2020, pandemic happens, and at that time I lived in Perth. And Perth is one of the most locked down city, they said, on the planet at that time. Like it was a very strict lockdown, so I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't travel anymore. So I started uploading videos on talking about Scrum outdoors, and I also flew some. I took some drone shots, and interestingly, the channel took off with the video that talked about project manager versus Scrum Master, if I'm not mistaken. That kind of propelled like the quote unquote popularity of this channel. And interestingly, people like that kind of video. Yeah. But now the channel has kind of evolved. A lot more people are looking for information rather than outside views. But I don't know. What do you think? Does any of you still like those kind of videos, especially for those of you who are early subscribers and attracted to this channel because of that outside view? Let me know, because I've got like a mixed comments. I got like mixed complaints. Some people said, "What is this? Like, I came here to." There was a one person who made a comment on, I think it was the Scrum Master, how to measure Scrum Master accountability. This was like the very early videos. And he was a project manager, and he ranted. He said, like, I came here to learn about project management, and here I am presented with this silly beaches, drone shots. Yeah, several people are complaining. I think in the product owner versus project manager video, there's several people complain like, oh, go straight to minute 3, because like the first 3 minutes is just like some silly drone shots that you probably don't care about. Yeah, so let me know if that is the kind of content that you still like to know. Yeah, I think the channel has evolved. Last year, I moved to Brisbane, and most of the time, the videos that I made was in my tiny studio. And since last year, 2021, I had this drive to kind of fill up the gaps in the industry. I think there aren't many contents at that time, like last year, that touches Scrum, especially based on the Scrum Guide 2020, because as you may have known, Scrum Guide 2020, it was released like late 2020, around November 2020. Actually, it was supposed to be released earlier in 2020, but as we know, pandemic happened, so that's why Ken and Jeff kind of postponed it to later 2020. Anyway, when I look at Scrum Guide 2020, it's a very huge shift. Not only it became thinner, but it became more principles based. If you have noticed, Scrum Guide 2020 is less prescriptive. For example, like the daily Scrum, in the daily Scrum section, the part that says 3 questions that the team discussed during daily Scrum, that part was removed, right? And then I think in the sprint retrospective section, in the previous version, it's sort of prescribed that at least one actionable items from the sprint retrospectives should immediately go to the next sprint planning. So when I saw that, I thought, wow, like this is a huge gap. And I think at that time, many people would not be ready for that because of its ambiguity and less prescriptive. So 2021, like I had a mission. I'm going to fill up the gap and talk more about the principles, the idea, the intent behind, like the actual intent behind Scrum. Because I noticed past 2021, how can I say it? People are just so more focused on the mechanics of Scrum, right? There aren't many contents that that touches like the intent behind it. Because when you read Scrum Guide, it's hard to notice what's the intent of the author. What's the underlying principles behind why Ken and Jeff wrote it that way. Like what's the intent behind it? Yeah, and I started using the videos on my channel, in my classes, and also in my consulting engagement. And during that period, as we know, some cities, some towns are still locked down, even in 2021. I was still mostly in Brisbane. Yeah, I think it's yeah. I think there's yeah some borders were still closed. So I had quite a few engagement, remote engagement, and I found that it's so hard to. I'm not sure about you, but I found it so hard to communicate and transfer this idea through online meeting tools like Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Um, and so that's why I made a lot of those videos to teach teams, to have a conversation with executives, what's like the actual intent, the underlying ideas, underlying principles about it. And thanks to you, yeah, I think several people they shared it to their colleagues on social media, and a lot more people know about this channel. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yay! All right, we got 4 viewers at the moment. I've been talking too long, sharing with you about the how this channel evolved and how I started this channel. If you have any question, folks, put it in the comment. Yeah, what questions do you have for me today? Today's going to be light. I'm going to attend to any questions that you have. I may also doodle if I need to. I may also, as you may have noticed, I'm a visual learner. Yeah. So if you have any questions, write it down. No, I did not see your question, Bena. Can you type it again? You just type that you're from Canada, and it's currently at 6 p.m. where you're at. Yeah, let me know. Um, yeah, type down your questions in the chat window. What do you call that? Chat window is Zoom stuff. All right, all right. Yeah, type it in. I'll try to answer it. Anyone else? Anyone else? Thank you for everyone who has joined. I can see 4, 5 people joining in. This is actually a good number. I'm not sure if you know. I'm actually quite a timid person. I'm actually quite timid talking in front of large crowds. So YouTube actually is a good excuse for me to express my ideas without knowing that there's a lot of people who's going to be looking, right? All right, all right. Oh, Teams burnout. No, can you type it in again? What is it about Teams burnout, Bena? I did not see your question. Can you please type it again? Welcome to everyone who has joined. If you have any question for me, folks, type it in the chat window. Ha. There we go. All right, so Mani. All right, so I'm probably going to ask you to elaborate more on Teams burnout with Scrum ceremonies for DevOps teams. What are the tips? Okay, that's interesting. Ha, there we go. Manny from Sydney, questions about Scrum ceremonies for DevOps teams. Yes, that's really interesting. I've gotten these questions quite a lot of times. I prefer actually to see. So I'm going to doodle on this one. Zoop. All right. So I personally like to have the DevOps team working together with the Scrum team, the people who develop. So if you may have noticed in Scrum Guide, in Sprint Review section, there is a section that says that Sprint Review should no longer be a phase gate for delivering value. And the reason why Ken and Jeff noticed that, because Scrum has gotten feedback from teams who are practicing DevOps. So some teams who are practicing DevOps said that Scrum is now becoming the next waterfall. It's becoming ancient because a lot of teams see that Scrum is not agile enough because some teams interpret that you can only release to production after the sprint review. So that's why Ken and Jeff have to highlight that in the sprint review section, that if you want to release before the sprint review, go ahead, right? Because some teams are releasing multiple times before the sprint review. You probably have noticed there's several videos, there's several talks like on YouTube from Netflix developers or Amazon developers, or I think Etsy. That one was quite popular. These developers explain how in their context they're releasing to production environment multiple times, not only multiple times a sprint. Some teams even release multiple times a day, right? So basically, that section says that if you want to practice continuous release, continuous delivery to production before the sprint review even happens, go ahead. Nothing should be stopping you to do that, right? So going back to your question, Manny, about I'm quite pedantic here, so I'm going to call it events rather than ceremonies. The reason is because ceremonies implies that this is a ritual, something that the teams like need to. There's something that the team needs to worship, quote unquote. But when we view it as an event, what's most important is the objective, what's happening, right? What are we going to get out of it, right? So people are not just doing it for the sake of it. There's something that they are striving for, that they want to get out of each of those events, right? There's outcome that they want to get out of. Now, if we look at usually these questions about how do DevOps teams do Scrum events, because these kind of organizations, they're sort of doing DevOps, but what they're referring to the DevOps teams oftentimes is just the ops team. These are the people who are maintaining the infrastructure, ensuring that the system is up and running 99.99%, ensuring that the team is fulfilling the SLA, right? And even though, quote unquote, they look like they're doing DevOps, but the people who are developing is actually another team, right? And let's call this the dev, because Scrum Guide now has this term developers. But the developers are a different team. So what a lot of organizations said DevOps teams oftentimes is just the ops team, because in practice it doesn't make sense to call it the DevOps teams, because DevOps is not about structure. DevOps is about culture rather than structure, right? So the idea is actually to merge the people who are developing and the people who are maintaining, right? So oftentimes, organization structures, the Scrum team are only consist of the people who are developing, while Ops is a different team, and those people who are maintaining the system is called the DevOps team, when it's actually just the Ops team. Now, strive for this, right? Strive to merge the people who develop and the people who maintain the system, right? So there are many tactics for this. The developers would be required, therefore, to be able to release to production. They need to know several ops stuff. I think there's several tools where the developers can like touch operational stuff, like Chef, which is more developers oriented. If I want to engage the developers to have an overview what's happening in ops, I personally prefer Chef, but some teams prefer Puppet. Puppet is more ops oriented. Either way, like strive to merge these two groups. There's a really interesting quote. I think it was from Jeff Bezos. So he made like announcement to everyone at Amazon. The people who develop should be the same one who also maintain it in production. So basically, you build it, you maintain it, right? So they strive for like tearing down the silos between the people who develop and the people who maintain it, right? There should be a single team, okay? So now when you have this kind of perspective, when you have this kind of setup in your organization, now this starts to make sense, right? So the people who maintain and the people who develop is now just one team, okay? And they're just developing a single product. Now, the question about how to do Scrum events basically is non-existent, right? Now, this is a cultural shift because now the people who are maintaining in production needs to know what's being developed, right? And oftentimes, these people who are maintaining, the people who we call as the operations people, oftentimes they may need to know how to code, right? So that's what we're striving for. We don't expect them to be the expert in software development, but at least they know, right? So it's not they're totally blank about the development side, right? And also vice versa. The people who develop now have a little bit of overview what's happening in production. In some organizations, they even give root access to the developers, right? So that's why the developers can also maintain the system in production. They can release multiple times without having the ops people as a face gate, right? So now if you kind of blend those two, now you have a single team who develop one product, and that same team who developed the product is the one who also maintain it. I personally suggest you to strive for this rather than this is just what I got. This is the operations team. Now, how can I do Scrum for this, right? So oftentimes when I suggest organizations, strive for looking at the actual product, right? So don't look at the existing organization structure. The organization structure should be formed based on how the product is delivered to the customer. Because when you see it, existing organization structure, like this hierarchical a model, the existing organization structure in many companies, this organization structure, it's it's formed to make it easy for management to maintain costs. So the existing organization's structure is about cost efficiency. So that's why people are grouped based on functions, right? So there's department IT, there's finance department, there's HR department, right? So organizations are structured based on the functions. Because this idea came from a very old idea from scientific management by Frederick Taylor, right? So scientific management by Frederick Taylor. What's happening with me? Okay, scientific management by Frederick Taylor. So basically, the many organization, their current structure is based on functions, and it's based on the idea that was proposed by Frederick Taylor, scientific management. It's easy for the management, but those kind of functional based organizations oftentimes impede the value delivery. Okay, so how Scrum view it is, the reason why Scrum said that you should have a cross-functional team, right? That's like mentioned like in Scrum Guide, in the Scrum team section. It says that the Scrum team is cross-functional. They have all of the function. Because cross-functional organization, cross-functional team is more agile. They have all of the functions, they have all of the skills to be able to deliver value faster to the customers, right? With functional-based organizations, there's going to be lag time. There's going to be waiting time, right? I need to have a handover from the developers team, from the UX team, from the finance team, for example. And that lag time, that waiting time might be impeding the value delivery. So that's why Scrum emphasizes cross-functional team, cross-functional. In fact, you should scale out. This is what I advise to executive. So scale that idea even further to the higher organization. Don't only strive for cross-functional team, strive for cross-functional organization. If you want to form like a group of people, ensure that all of the functions that are needed to deliver value to customers are there. So form the organization based on customer journey instead of functions, right? And when we view from customer perspective, when we view it from customer value delivery or customer journey, we may have mixed a group of people. There might be operations people there. We might have marketing people, IT, the finance people are there, HR are there, right? Yes, I do get pushback sometimes from the executive. They often come back to me and said, wow, that's so expensive, right? Because all this time, the reason why they group people based on functions, so that it's easier for them to manage, to isolate these people based on functions. And often they give me complaints, wow, cross-functional organization, that's really expensive. It's true, it might be more expensive. But if our value delivery is faster than before, and if we compare the expense, the cost versus the amount of money that we get, like in like shorter time period, our return on investment might actually be better than before, right? So strive for a value delivery speed. Like in evidence-based management, this metric is time to market, right? All of the metrics under the time to market value area basically gives you an insight how fast are you in delivering value, right? So when the company is structured based on customer journey, your time to market might be better than before. And if your time to market is better than before from return on investment wise, it might be a win. I personally like to suggest you this, right? Rather than getting stuck to status quo. Therefore, you probably have a lot of homework to do. Yes, I do acknowledge it's hard, but strive for that. Okay, so hopefully from here, you can see that it makes sense for ops to join people who develop. Now doing Scrum events together, starting to make sense. Yes, Bena, yeah, I agree. So much politics inside organizations. Sometimes they cannot see the big picture. And I'm sorry, but we're having a light conversations, right? We're having a light talk. And this is what this live stream is about. Just hanging out with you folks, talk about Scrum, talk about agility. And guess what? I've advised several executives, let's incrementally make changes in our organization. Let's use Scrum to increase our agility. So I'm not sure about you, but traditional change management, it's done like a project, right? Let me try again. So interestingly, a lot of organizations, especially if they get like advice from large consultant, when they do change management, they sort of like do it in waterfall process, right? So hopefully at the end of this process, we have change. And hopefully at this stage, we will become, let's say the term, we will become more agile. So even change management is done like in a waterfall process. And a lot of times I see in companies, this whole change management process, it's turned into project. And the executive said, okay, let's have a deadline for that. In 6 months, our organization must be more agile. And a lot of times people hate this because a lot of times the change are pushed down people's throat. A lot of times people are resistant. They can't accept it. And actually, what's planned to be 6 months, it became much longer because of those resistance from people. They can't accept it. Yeah, so I've been advising senior leaders, let's make incremental changes in our organization. Not only incremental, but also empirical in 1 month or less. Every month, let's inspect and adapt. What happens? Does the change that we make inside the organization turn our organization to be more agile than before? Right? And light bulb moments usually happens. And oh wow, you can actually use Scrum to make my company like incrementally become more agile. Yeah, and a lot of times now the organizations, the executives start to see something different about Scrum, right? This is not a methodology. Like this is about principles. This is about empirical methods, right? All right, so hopefully I have answered Manny's question, but if you're not satisfied with that, yeah, ask further questions. And now I want to attend to this question from Benna about burnout. All right, burnout from team members. All right, so interesting. Usually, you can correct me. You can add further information. Usually, when burnout happens, the team might be either underestimating how much work they should gauge into the sprint. So if the team is able just to get enough work during sprint planning, we should be able to avoid burnouts, right? So oftentimes, but if I'm like on the field, like I would know what would be the cause of the burnout. But usually when a Scrum Master came to me, my team is burnout. How can I help them improve, or how can I fix the situation so there will be less or almost no burnout? So if I get this question, I often advise the Scrum Master who asks me to look at the sprint planning first. So let's say we have backlog. Let's say we are in sprint planning, right? Let's say we are now in sprint planning. Now, the product backlog is not the only thing that the team need to consider during sprint planning. Also look at the definition of done, right? So how many bullet points they have on their definition of done. Usually in a team who work for a company that is regulated by a regulator, let's say in a healthcare industry or in financial institution like banks, right? Their DOD has so many bullet points that are most often it's not technical related, like writing documentations, because they work in a company or an organization that is regulated. So the amount of bullet points in the definition of done affect how many product backlog items they can gauge into the sprint, right? So I often advise, look at your definition of done. Don't just look at your product backlog by itself. Okay. Now, if the team are self-managing, right? I'm assuming your team is self-managing, like they take that product backlog items themselves. There shouldn't be burnouts because they know how much they can take. But if they're not at a stage where they know how much they can actually take into the sprint, I personally like the team just doing it, taking it one at a time. All right. So like don't forecast for the whole sprint and try to fill up the whole sprint. Okay. And that's why I like in the new Scrum guide, it's explicitly mentioned in the first part of the sprint planning. Let's talk about the sprint goal. Okay, what do we want to achieve this sprint, right? So the sprint goal, it's not about the features or the functionalities that the team will develop. It's about the outcome that they strive for, right? If you need further explanation on what outcome is, you can check out my videos, outcome versus output, right? What outcome metrics, what number do we want to influence this sprint, right? So when the sprint goal is about the outcome they want to strive for, the outcome metrics they want to influence, right? It becomes more flexible, right? It creates lots of flexibility on what product backlog items they should gauge into the sprint. And I tell the team, okay, let's say we've got the sprint goal. Let's say the goal is increase the user engagement, let's say on the app, let's say by 10%. Okay, so let's say that's the sprint goal, right? So just take one, I said, right? First, just take one. And when you take one product backlog items, right, make sure that it is done according to the definition of done before you take another one, right? So I think you have mentioned Bena about Kanban. Yeah, in the chat section, it's sort of like a single piece flow. I often call it, right? Just take one at a time and make sure it's done according to definition of done before you take another one. So strive for that continuous flow. And when you take another one, right, from the product backlog, look at your sprint goal. So don't just randomly take items into the sprint, right? So the sprint goal becomes an indicator for the team. Which one should we take on next, right? So continue doing that. Let's say they take the second one, right? Make sure it's done according to the definition of done. And then when they're done, they continue doing that until the end of the sprint, right? So it's a single piece flow. So if you look at the sprint, let's say this is the sprint, right? So things are moving, like the product backlog items are moving throughout the sprint. It's like it's like a continuous flow rather than a mini waterfall where the team only develop for the very first few days of the sprint, only tests at the very end of the sprint, right? So if the team is getting better at this, right, I personally think, and I have seen it several times, there shouldn't be any burnouts, right? Because one, they're not forecasting for the whole sprint, right? In fact, some teams who are really good, they would say it's almost impossible to predict the whole sprint. Like even teams who are doing 2-week sprint, they would say that there's so much unpredictability that might happen in the next 2 weeks. So some teams have learned their lesson, only take a few or only take one at a time before taking the most. And this is the part that I like about the latest Scrum Guide 2020. Like you have to start with creating the sprint goal first. So I oftentimes, when I work with teams, I kind of hide their product backlog. If they're using electronic tools like Jira or Trello, I said shut down your computer, don't look at that, okay? If it's an online kind of sprint planning, okay, let's not look at that first. Let's talk about what do we want to achieve this sprint. And to the product owner, I would often ask, hey, product owner, if this is your last sprint, why do you still want to spend your money for this sprint, right? Because the sprint is about delivering value. Every sprint, that's value delivered. So what's the reason why you as a product owner still want to invest your money for this sprint, right? What outcome, what tangible outcome do you wish to see by the end of the sprint, right? So come up with sprint goal first. And I often tell teams, just take one first, right? Because we're not there yet. We're not that team who's rocking it, right? And I often tie back. If the team have problems with burnout, I often tie it, we have problems with burnout. Let's try this one first. And I often tell them about the Scrum values. Let's be open. Let's try something new, right? Yeah, and once the team get it, in the long run, they're in a continuous flow. They're in a healthy pace. They got the rhythm, and burnout shouldn't happen. So hopefully that kind of give you inspiration on what you will try in your organization, Bena. Hopefully. All right. Woohoo! I love this. How many people have joined us? Ooh, lovely. See, that's the good thing, Manny and Bena. With having less people, you can ask a lot of questions, and we can have a light conversation. And let's see. Manny has asked a question. Okay. Manny asked the question, what are the steps to introduce... Hey, I'm sorry if I kind of, I'm not neglecting everyone else here. But these are the questions that I got from Manny and Benna. If any of you, anyone else, I can see around 6 people who join. If the other 4 of you have any question, feel free to ask in the chat window, folks. This is AMA. Ask me any questions on Scrum. This is my thank you for all of you who has supported this channel. So yeah, I'm not neglecting you. I'm just looking at my chat window, and these are the questions that I got from Manny and Benna. All right, so Manny asked us, what are the steps to introduce Agile to a team who is new to Agile? That is interesting. In general, I would say from my experience, there wouldn't be a single way to introduce Agile to a team. What I meant by this is, all right, so another doodle, folks. Yeah. Okay. So if I can kind of split like 2 main ways to introduce it, I would say, from my personal experience, the first way is start from practice, tangible practice. The second way, in a very good organization, in a very good teams, who usually like, I would say they're quite philosophical, if I can use that word. They prefer to start from principles, right? So these are like heavy thought leaders. Like people prefer to think about the why, right? So that's why they prefer to start from principles. But not organizations are like that. Some organizations prefer just show me like how it's done, right? They prefer starting from tangible practice, right? So they prefer starting from how, right? So some organizations, some teams, they prefer starting from why. These are usually, the organizations are used to that way of working, and usually the leaders started the organization or drive the company that way. Like always emphasize principles, values, principles, philosophies, the original intent behind it, right? Some organizations are like that. Even though from my personal experience, I'm not sure about your experience, but from my personal experience, the majority of organizations prefer to start from how? Tangible practice. Okay, so they don't, it's not that they don't care, I would say, with principles, but they prefer, okay, let's learn by doing. And then after we have done it, after we can see how it works, then we'll start discovering or mapping the practices that we have done to the principles, right? So tangible practice. Let's say you have identified your organizations, the team, the people you're working with prefer to start with tangible practices. Now, when talking about tangible practices, I'm really careful about this because people have bias. And I think I've mentioned this several times on my videos, right? So we have to be strategic when we want to start from practice. Make sure that the practice that we teach is not mapped to people's existing bias wrongly. I would like to take example, let's say Scrum. Let's say the tangible practice that we would like to start is, let's say, Scrum. And let's say we start with sprints, right? And in Scrum, there are several events. Sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, retrospective. Now, let's say we've got those four options. Let's say, where do we start? We got sprint planning, we got daily scrum, we got review, and we got retro. Which one do we start? Now, the first three, from my personal experience, people have their own perspective, their own bias about sprint planning, daily scrum, and sprint review. So in the majority of organizations or teams that I work with, there are still teams who literally use sprint planning for defining the requirements for the sprint. In fact, that's where they start doing the backlog refinement. That's when they start doing requirements gathering. That's when they actually start planning. So they still view the sprint as a whole as a shorter waterfall. So the sprint planning is viewed as a business analysis opportunity. And in fact, a lot of teams, their sprint planning just take ages because of that perspective. So oftentimes I would cross this one out. I would not start from here knowing that people have those kind of bias. Daily Scrum is also, I found from my personal experience, becomes problematic when you start there first. I'm not sure about you, but I have so many horrible experience. Oftentimes, teams view the Daily Scrum as a status report meeting. Now, this becomes a problem if the person who introduced it, let's say it's the Scrum Master, the teams will view that the daily scrum is a daily status report to the Scrum Master. So I found that there's still quite a few people who has this bias. In fact, when I look at the internet, there's quite many rants on blog posts, on Reddit, Stack Overflow, how engineers, developers hate Scrum because of this reason. Because they view the daily scrum as an event to report status to the Scrum Master. In fact, some teams even find ways to automate their daily scrum, right? So I'm not sure if you have seen it. There's quite a lot of software where the team can do asynchronous daily scrum without actually talking to each other. Problematic. So I would cross it out also. The third one, sprint review, is also problematic. And I mentioned earlier in today's stream how Ken and Jeff want to emphasize that the sprint review is not a phase gate opportunity, because a lot of organizations still view the sprint review as a UAT session, right? So during sprint review, that is the first time where the product is being tested. Because a lot of teams, a lot of organizations still view the sprint review as a UAT session. In fact, the product owner does not know anything about what's being delivered before the sprint review. So the sprint review is actually the first time the product owner has seen the product. Because of that perspective, sprint review is UAT, user acceptance testing session. You haven't heard of UAT, so I would often cross that one out also. Retro is really interesting. Not many organizations has done it well. If you have worked in a project context, a really good project manager might have done what it's called as a project postmortem, but that's at the very end of the project, right? So in Scrum context, that might be already too late, depending on how long the project is. If the project is 6 months, and if you do project postmortem 6 months later, the learning can only be brought in to the next project, which we don't know when, right? Now, this is really interesting. Some people have seen it. Some people have not seen project postmortem. Some people don't have bad experience with it, right? They don't have personal bias about project postmortem, right? If they want to map retrospective to project postmortem, my personal experience is it causes less harm. So this is a good candidate, right? So this is a good candidate. So I would start there, right? And this can be done informally and very lightly, right? I've worked with a team. This was in Australia. Hey, Manny, you're based in Australia too. You should know more about Australian culture than me. What we did was we literally bring the whole team to the bar, and the retrospective falls on Friday, and we get out of the office earlier because usually in some parts of Australia there is a happy hour, and happy hour usually starts at 4, right? So um, the office hour has not a 10 at 4, but in some bars happy hour starts at 4. So we just have a light conversation, right? It's informal. It's not that kind of a structured retrospective where you have a format. And this is why it's important to have a perspective about the Scrum events. What's most important is what are we going to get out of it, right? If the Scrum Master, if the team knows that the whole idea of retrospective is to improve the way they work, how it's done shouldn't matter. And I like that perspective. And that's why I often tell teams, this is not a ceremonial thing, right? This is work. This is part of work. Finding what we should improve is part of work. Our job is not just to work. We should sometimes also stop, reflect, and find out, discover how we can be better, right? We can have a light conversation, like over the bar table. How can we improve, right? And when you start from there, and this is my personal experience, right? The teams might be open, and because it's held at the bar, sorry about this. Um, um, the team might be more open, right? Because they got a glass of beer, they might be more open to talk about what's happening, right? That's also a trick that Scrum Master can do, right? They might be more open, and you get the value openness there, right? Because of that reason, they might be more open, sharing about their pain points, what's their obstacles. Now, my personal thought, the most important part of retrospective is not what's happening during retrospective itself. It's what happens after the retrospective. Now, if the Scrum Master, after hearing the team's pain point, not doing anything about it, right, the team will become skeptical, right? And it's hard to introduce other practices to the team, right? Because they think, and that's how a lot of teams think that the Scrum events are just ceremonial thing, right? We're just doing it for the sake of it. But after that, nothing changes in the company. So be mindful to avoid that happening. Okay, so do something about it after the team have explained their pain points during this quote-unquote informal sprint retrospective. Now, when you look at it as a whole, it's not really Scrum, right? Scrum is not there yet. You're only doing retrospective, right? And you can do it informally. You might be able to engage, probe, sense, what's the team culture, what's most appropriate, right? There's no single right way to do it. Every teams, every organizations, they have different cultures. And if you keep on listening to the team with their pain points during retrospective, all of the other practices might evolve from there, right? So it starts with listening, right? And you can use the retrospective to listen their pain points. And then everything else, I would personally say it should evolve from there. And when you do that well, Agile will happen organically rather than pushed down from the top, right? And people will embrace it because they have been involved and they have been listened to, right? So it's not you saying, hey, let's do Agile, do this. You're doing it the other way around. What's your pain points? I'm here with you. I'm listening, right? And you're doing something about it. And the team starts seeing, wow, we are actually getting better than like last month, right? And they will be motivated. And you're engaging them. You're putting them in the process. So now they become part of the process. Instead of you pushing down the throat, I want to do Agile. I want to introduce it to you. I've just gotten to training. I'm certified now. So you should do as I said, because I've got the certification. But you're doing it the other way around, right? And you're doing it organically, right? And people start to engage. Now, once you're done with the team, you can scale out your influence. That's how I would like to say it. Scale out your influence beyond the team. And in Scrum Guide, it's mentioned that the Scrum Master has a service to the organization, right? I think there's 4 bullet points of Scrum Master service at the organization level. I would say from there, scale out your influence. Who else in the company can get benefit out of this? Talk to HR. Maybe HR is what's impeding the team to deliver. I have talked to procurement because of their weird rules in selecting third-party suppliers that's so much more focused on cost efficiency. But oftentimes when they're focused with cost-efficient supplier, like the cheapest supplier in the market, we might not be getting the best people to do the work, right? So I have talked to procurement people. Sometimes I talk to legal people. Sometimes they have this rules or policy that might be impeding the team to deliver, right? Scale out your influence. Now, when you're really good like doing that, right, people will engage it. And Agile in general happens organically rather than being pushed from the top. So hopefully that answer your question, Manny. Hopefully it gives you inspiration to start making changes in your team, in your organization. Hopefully next week, I'm going to come back to you and ask you how you go. All right. Welcome, everyone. Sorry, that was long. I would like to give you folks like a wider perspective rather than giving you the fish. This is what Barry Overeem told me. We should not give the fish to the Scrum Masters, right? We should give them the fishing rod, right? So work it out, Manny. Hopefully that strategy you get some inspiration based on what I have just mentioned. Hopefully you can come up with good strategy that fit for purpose in your organization, right? As I mentioned, try to probe, sense what's the team culture, what's the organization culture, look at the legacy, what's the history of the team, of the organization. And hopefully that helps. I would be looking forward to hearing from you how it works out. You can leave comments on my channel and how that works out. All right, so we got another question from Alicia. Welcome, everyone. Yes. All right. So we got Alicia MP. So hey, everyone, leave down your real name so I can call you properly. And what time zone are you at? What time zone are you at? I'm in Brisbane, so it's UTC plus 10. It's 11 a.m. at the moment. Yes, I know some people. I know them personally. I can see Rotua. And Rotua asked me, will I change my hair? Yeah, should I change my hair back? Yeah, I don't know. Scrum, right? Empirical. That's just an excuse. Yeah, I will inspect and adapt in another month, in another sprint, whether Actually, yesterday when I went to the salon, I told the hairdresser, I actually like this. It makes me looks more fresh. So I'm actually thinking about what color should I go next. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. I'm a Scrum Master, empirical, right? But thank you, Rotua, for the question. Thank you, thank you. All right, so let's go back to Alicia's question here. Yeah. Blue. We got Rudy. Yep, that's what I thought yesterday, right? Blue is better. Yeah, I was thinking, and my son actually gave me inspiration. Go for aqua next or turquoise. Yeah, he was there, my son, throughout the whole process. It was like 5 hours. That was the first time I dyed my hair. All right, thank you. Welcome, Rudy. Welcome, Rotua. We got Carlos. I think I forgot where Carlos from. Is it Peru? Carlos is very engaged with my videos, my posts on LinkedIn. Really appreciate it, Carlos. I think you're one of that person who supported me to get to this milestone. We got MP Soul, Alicia. Anyway, let's get back. Let's go back to the chat, right? Focus, focus. Scrum. One of the Scrum value is focus. Okay, Alicia asked me a question. Where will UAT happen if not in sprint review? That's a good question. Yeah. I think this is a common question, or a common misperception that people have about sprint review. Some people, some organizations think that the sprint review is where the testing happens. So if I visualize a sprint like such, we got planning here, sprint planning. We got review, right? Retro. Hang on a second. Let me pick something. Is it explicitly mentioned? I'm just trying to look at the Scrum guide. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to those of you who has joined the live stream. Great to have you here. Bena and Manny joined earlier. We had a great conversation. Okay, let's see. All right. Sprint review. Yeah. So during sprint review, the increment should already be accomplished. So it should already be done, right? And done here, it's done according to the definition of done. So before the sprint review, if UAT is part of the definition of done, before sprint review, the UAT has already been done. Okay, so I'm going to visualize it again. All right. So the UAT should happen somewhere around here before sprint review, right? If you ever need any sprint review. That is, I just realized that I shouldn't be drawing there. Ha, okay, now you can see it better. Let's see, we got planning. review retro. Yeah, it should happen here. Now, I didn't really put that at the end because the most important question is, in a great team, they know that manual UAT is painful, right? Now, they know this is painful. Not only the team, the user, because UAT is user acceptance testing. Anything that's manual testing, whether that's done by the team or by the user, it's painful. And not only painful, it's also error prone. Because we're relying on human, right? It's not that I am underestimating humans' capability to do this. But human would not be as consistent as machines, right? Because we are just human. We are imperfect, right? So manual testing is error prone. It's painful. Something that is done repetitively, like testing, it's quite painful. It's also error prone. So knowing that, and team can bring this question like during retrospective, right? So teams can bring up this question to retrospective. This is painful. So how can we make it less painful? How can we make it less painful? So some teams will say that we need to automate it, right? We need to automate acceptance testing. Now, when the team automate the acceptance testing, it's no longer user acceptance testing, but there is still acceptance testing. It's just not done by the user. There are several tools, and the teams need to learn this. I can give you several. I'm going to drop it in the chat window. Okay. The first one is, sorry folks, this is unscripted. Fitness. Okay. Another one is robot. This is based on my experience working with teams. Robot would be next. Cucumber would be the next one. Yep. These are some that I know. But the teams should discover. Hopefully that's a good starting point for you to automate the acceptance testing. Now that it's automated, it doesn't make sense to call it UAT anymore, right? Because there's no user doing the acceptance testing. Now it's more like an automated acceptance testing, right? And how would you know what needs to be done in the acceptance testing? Usually the tester, the test engineers, whoever have the capability to do this, they would like specify the test cases, like the success scenario, failing scenario, right? So you can write those testing scenarios in Cucumber, in Robot, in Fitness, right? Now that does not cover, I call it exploratory testing, right? So exploratory testing are usually unscripted, right? You don't have like specific scenario how to replicate it. All right, that one we leave that to human, but that should be very minimum, assuming that we have automated the majority of the acceptance testing. Now, going back to my sketch here. Now, why I put it somewhere in the middle here. Now, when this is done, like before the sprint review, and it happens somewhere in the middle, now the acceptance testing, I'm just going to cross the A there. Now that we have automated our acceptance testing, now this can happen several times. It doesn't just happen once, right? Some teams integrate those tools that I have just given you to their CI/CD tools, if teams use Jenkins, it's Jenkins. Some teams use proprietary ones like Bamboo or from IntelliJ, TeamCity, etc. Right? So they integrate that. So whenever the team check in the codes, the acceptance testing now are done automatically. And not only you get acceptance testing because it's automated, you also get regression testing, right? Because regression testing is basically testing the functionalities that has been built in the previous sprint as such that you don't break anything, right? Now that it's been automated, you also get the regression testing. The regression testing is no longer done by human, right? So before sprint review, this acceptance testing happened, and during sprint review, you get a done increment. You get a production ready increments, right? So when teams are really good at this, right, in Scrum Guide, the sprint review is about the outcome, right? That's just really interesting. The purpose of sprint review is to inspect the outcome. It's not about the output, right? So what is the metric that you get out of this increment that's already production ready? Now, when the team are really good in that, the senior leaders usually are more engaged with the process, because we're bringing outcome metrics to the sprint review rather than just showing the functionalities that has been delivered. So now I'm currently in an engagement with a client, a large multinational company, and I'm working with several Scrum Masters to level up the product owner to start bringing metrics, more specifically evidence-based management metrics, and more specifically the metrics under the current value area, because we want the senior executives, the senior leaders, the C-level people like the CEO, CIO, COO to be engaged with the process. Now, these people usually do not care about what specific functionalities you deliver, but they do care with how their money is being spent to develop the product, right? So when the teams are really good in that, now you can start presenting metrics. You can start presenting financial metrics to the executives. These are the metrics that they care about. Most often, they don't really care like the tiny details of what's being delivered, but they do care about the return on investment, how the Scrum team is using the money, the investment that they have put in to develop the product. All right, so hopefully that gives you some idea. Alicia, thank you for joining the live stream. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Woo! Ooh, that is interesting. We got from MP Soul, Discipline Agile. I don't want to be too political with this one. I might be biased because as the majority of you know that I'm a trainer with Scrum.org. I'm a PST. I don't really want to make any comment about it. But if you're asking my personal opinion, and this will be very subjective, right? Because you're asking for my personal opinion, right? What do you think? So it's going to be subjective and my personal opinion. And I'm sorry if there are any PMI members who might be offended by this, but this is my personal opinion. I personally think that discipline agile is one of the way for PMI, Project Management Institute, to get in the game. They've been quite late into the market. I think they've been trying. To get into the agile space, but it was quite too late. Now, discipline agile, it's I think it's conceptualized by Scott Ambler, right? And interestingly, after Scott Ambler, if you read the background story about it, after he joined PMI, like get discipline agile to be promoted by PMI, he recently have left PMI. Now you may be questioning, why would Scott Ambler left PMI, the organization? I don't know. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what conversation PMI had with Scott Ambler. I don't know what's the reason why he left PMI. Discipline Agile is one of the way for PMI to get into the game. They're quite late. And I'm not trying to put down anyone here. They don't really have, like as an organization, they don't really have any thought leaders that speak Agile loudly. So they're trying to engage existing thought leaders in the Agile space. Scott Ambler is one of it. I think there's another person, I forgot his name. PMI also approached him, but I think he also left PMI. Right, that's my personal opinion. PMI does not have any thought leader, so they're trying their best to get into the game by engaging. If they have to like nurture from within the existing people from the PMI organization, that might be harder, right? Because now the market is saying, who is that person, right? What's like the track record? How long has that person been like quote unquote talking about Agile like in the community? I think Agile is very community driven. It's a grassroots movement, right? That's why the community is looking for the person these days behind it rather than the institution as a general. Like, who's the person behind it, right? What's the credibility of that person, right? So that's my thought. I can't say more about it. I'm much more focused with Scrum.org. And one of the reasons why I like Scrum.org is because it's mission driven. Starting from day one when Ken Schwaber formed Scrum.org, he said Scrum.org is going to be a mission-driven organization. On the flip side, he's contrasting to sales-driven organization. So sales-driven organization are mostly thinking about, how can I get the sales up? How can I get more sales, right? They have a mission. They have an objective they want to pursue. And I have been, quote unquote, drowned with their mission. And I didn't have time to look at what other institutions are doing. It's not that I'm ignorant. I do know, like on the surface, what they're doing. but like to be more specific, in depth, what they're doing, I don't know. I don't know what PMI is doing, but that's my personal opinion about it, right? So I wish them good luck with that. Yeah, that's my personal opinion about it. Hey. Yeah, my Fitbit just tells that, well done, I've been moving. I haven't been moving. I've been sitting down for the past 1.5 hours. Anyway, thank you though. Thank you, MP Soul. All right, so we got another question here from Carlos. Kanban to Scrum devs with zero experience. I like Kanban. I've started to try promoting, quote unquote, to more teams. The idea is simple. And I like how Daniel Ficanti like define Kanban. I just like the simplicity how he defined it. So it starts with visualizing your work. What you do, right, to deliver value to your customers, right? So visualize that. What are the work steps, processes needed to I like to view it like visualizing the process to turn idea into cash. I like that. I like how Kanban is defined as such, right? There might be several steps or processes to turn idea into cash, right? So the whole point of Kanban is how can you optimize the time to turn those idea into cash, into value. Perhaps I'll just change this to value because it's not always about cash, right? But value can be broader, right? Cash can be value. Okay. Now, first start there. Okay. First start there. And now, how can we make the flow of work turning idea into cash like more optimal, or if you wish, faster, right? So the idea is if you do one thing at a time, as I have mentioned to Benna in the earlier section, you can be faster, right? So that's why the third idea of Kanban is limit your work in process. Because if you limit your work in process, the flow of this work should be faster, right? So you start from visualizing your work and then optimize the flow of this work, and you optimize those flow of work, right, by limiting the work in process, and continuously improve using these information, using these metrics, these Kanban metrics, and these visualization, like continuously improve as such. Now, when I explain it as simple as that, usually the team have no hesitation. Usually the hesitation comes from people outside of the team. That might be the product owner who doesn't like that, because the product owner might have this philosophy, I want to get more done. So the product owner would like the team to do in big batches. I don't like seeing that single piece flow delivery. So not only the product owner who has hesitation, oftentimes the management might not like that, because the management might want the team to be as busy as possible, right? Rather than getting into that single piece flow, even though it's faster, but they see that the team is not fully utilized because these people would like the team to be as busy as possible. But Kanban is not about making people fully utilize, being as busy as possible. Again, it's about value delivery, right? So if you introduce it simply like that, well, from my personal experience, the team has no hesitation. I've worked with several teams who like that way of working. They hate the idea of turning Scrum into a mini waterfall. But from my personal experience, the biggest resistance actually comes from people outside of the team. In fact, even the product owner, if the product owner don't have a good solid understanding about Scrum principles, they might be hesitant and the management might be hesitant. So knowing that, then it is our job as a Scrum Master to actually educate those people. And if they might be hesitant at the first time, sometimes as a Scrum Master, you might take risks, take courage, just experiment for one sprint, start presenting metrics. Because usually for people like the management, they personally prefer to see the proof first before going on board all out, right? So you can start first sprint, start generating those Kanban metrics. And some tools are really good. I'm sorry if I am promoting, but I'm part of Kanbanize partner. So Kanbanize has a lot of built-in metrics, right? So if the teams use Kanbanize, like the metrics are built in. I think you can see in several of my videos some metrics, some charts that Kanbanize present. Right? So you can start presenting that to the management. And oftentimes, the metrics that you want to emphasize might not necessarily be quantity, right? The number of work delivered. Oh, after using Kanban, we deliver more. You want to be very careful, all right? Sometimes it might be other metrics that gets improved. Quality might become better because the team might be more focused, right? Because they're doing one thing at a time. The team engagement might be good, right? Team satisfaction might be better. That might improve after using Kanban, not necessarily delivering more, but they're happier and might be, if they're happier, they're more productive, they might be able to deliver more, right? Engagement might be better and number of user using the product might increase, right? Because the team is doing or delivering the functionality that the customer is actually looking for, right? They're not just trying to kind of fill up their sprint and ensure that they deliver more, right? Definition of done might be better. Now the team might be at a state where they can always deliver releasable increment every sprint. The metric of release frequency might increase, right? Because now the team might be moving towards continuous delivery. They might be releasing multiple times to production, right? Even before sprint review, right? So when you're presenting the metrics to the management, it might not necessarily be the quantity metrics, right? And make sure you don't promise that to the management. Oh, after using Kanban, we will deliver more. There will be more quantity, right? You're going to shoot yourself in the foot if you promise that, right? The other metrics might be improved after the team is using Kanban. So hopefully that has given you some ideas to introduce Kanban. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you for supporting. All right, I can see. I can see more people. There are around 13 people. Hey, folks, welcome. Welcome. I have just been answering the questions from the viewers. It's starting to get crowded now. Okay, that's good. That's good. If you have any question, folks, just type it in the chat window. I've been answering the questions from the viewers here. Yes. I actually planned this to be 1 hour, but I'm having a great conversation here with you. So now it's almost 2 hours, which is good. We're just having a party, celebrating new milestone for this channel. Sorry, I need a drink, folks. Actually, my daughter's friend, she went to her friend's house yesterday, and her daughter's friend, no, her friend's mother made a mooncake. So I'm going to celebrate today's live stream with a mooncake. Hopefully, you got something to celebrate this new milestone on this channel. All right. All right. Thank you, Manny. Thank you. I do not have any upfront plan yet. So I do not know when will be the next live stream. That is a good question, actually. I've been so focused in the past 6 months. It's one of my goal in 2022 to get 10,000 subscribers. So I think the last live stream I did, it was with Jeff Gothelf around February. Let me see. What was my last live stream before this? Oh yeah, with Jeff Gothelf. It was on March. Yeah. Um, yeah. I think I can do more of this in the future. I actually like this. Hanging out with you folks, answering your questions, sharing what Scrum is about. So yeah, let me think about it. So thank you for that question. You're making me think now. Yeah, thank you for joining, Manny. Good luck with introducing change in your company. Looking forward to hear good news from you. So I can see, ooh, it's dropping now. It's up and down. Now we have 7 people. All right, so quite fluctuative. If you have just joined us, folks, as what? As I have scheduled, this is just an AMA. Ask me anything on Scrum. I've been answering viewers' questions in the past 1.5 hours. If you have just joined us, yeah, write down your question in the chat window, and I will do my best to answer any questions you have about Scrum, agility, in team, outside of team, at executive level. I have quite experience on that also. Let's see. And Carlos. All right. So I know you, Carlos. So I'm going to have a light conversation on this one. Save Scrum Master in their dark side teams. This is hard. Um, this is hard. This is hard. There are some safe practitioners who try to kind of scrap the safe Scrum with professional Scrum. I know some PSTs who are like that. I'll give you their name. Yuval is one of them. He's a safe proponent. Like he's a safe practitioner, but he brings in professional Scrum into safe rather than the safe Scrum. So he's good. He's good. You might want to follow him. And I know Lawrence also, Lawrence Bonema. He's a SAFe practitioner. He teaches SAFe, but he brings in professional Scrum into SAFe. I'm probably going to drop his LinkedIn profile. Yeah. If you have send my regards to them. Yeah, I really respect them. Anyway, going back to your questions, if some companies want safe Scrum Masters, this is hard. It's challenging because you're going to be fighting against dogma, I would say, because there are quite some safe practitioners who are also heavy. They've got their own beliefs, so this is hard. Do your best to bring in professional Scrum there. And I think what I have learned from several good SAFe practitioners, right? In SAFe is a subtractive. It's a subtractive framework. This is what I mean by that. So let's see. SAFe have got all of these practices, right? They've got quite a lot of practices. Now in SAFe, basically they're saying use what you need, remove what you don't need. So you don't have to use everything in that package. So just use what you need, right? Now you need to put strategy here to communicate to people what what the organization actually need, right? On the contrast, so let me. So SAFe is subtractive, right? So here's everything that you may need. Don't use the ones that you don't need. Now Scrum is actually an additive, right? That's why it's so simple. It's minimal. So Scrum have a different perspective. Here's the foundation of what you need, the basic. Add more that you think makes sense to you, right? Now, if you're really good, you can find an intersection, right? You can find an intersection if I create a Venn diagram here. And you might be able to remove this part from SAFe. And then it can actually evolve sort of like Scrum and several more practices, right? I haven't had any experience where SAFe is already there. The majority of my experience is when the executives say, let's do SAFe. Like I would be saying no. Like, so I'm mostly in an engagement where I can prevent SAFe enters the organization. So I cannot say much. So I have several experience engagement where I just block that initiative from the C-level. But when I say no, I came with the reason, right? Oftentimes I tell these executives, right? These are just assumptions about how your organization, how your company should work. But then I tell the executives, but your company is unique, right? These are assumptions, right? SAFe are making assumptions about how your company should operate, how it should work. But your company is unique, right? So let's start from a bare minimum, from something simple, right? Scrum, right? And then let's self-discover. Let's let our people self-discover what additional practices that make sense, right? And it might evolve to something different, right? And it might not be SAFe on a large picture. but it's yours. It's self-discovered by the people within. And we are engaging the people to self-discover those additional practices rather than just pushing them these prescriptive sets of practices that might not make sense in their context. Right? And oftentimes, until today, it's accepted by the executives, right? And yeah, and in the long run, the organization evolve into something different. And on the paper, if we create a playbook for it, if we formalize their internal framework, it looks totally different to SAFe. So like fast forward like 1 year later or 6 months later, I would come back and tell the senior executive, see, you came up with something different, but you came up with it yourself. It wasn't following all of this heavy prescriptive framework or all of these practices defined by it. It's actually something different, right? Imagine if we go down a different route, a different path, right? It might be a different story, right? So, so my suggestion to you is, Carlos, knowing that is the idea of SAFe, like giving you all of the things that you may need. And SAFe basically say, I think in their guide, right, you don't have to use everything in SAFe, right? So create strategies. What are the things, the practices defined in SAFe that the organization don't actually need, right? Or perhaps you can be more revolutionary, do it the other way around, okay? So let's not implement everything in SAFe first. Let's start with bare minimum and cherry pick from those SAFe practices that we may need, right? So, and when you do that, try to quote unquote teach, mentor the organization, the senior management, like what Scrum Master is about. If you're quite courageous, you can sit down with the senior leader, how different SAFe view Scrum Master and how Scrum Guide views Scrum Master, right? So I often tell executives in SAFe, they try to smash or like make the scope of work or the area, scope of area where Scrum Master can make influence like smaller. So that's why they put additional layers on top of Scrum Master. But Scrum Guide have a different perspective. It elevates people rather than limiting people. Right? So that's a different perspective, right? I often tell senior executive, is that the mindset that we want to have in our organization, limiting people? Shouldn't we be on the side elevating, lifting up our people? Because that's what Scrum strives for, right? Everything around Scrum Guide, if you read like the whole Scrum Guide, the idea, like the core intent behind it is how can we elevate our people, right? SAFe try to limit people. So that's why they add more layers, right? There's RTE, there is program manager, portfolio, like they keep on adding layers, right? We might not need that, right? We should be removing dependencies in our organization. We should empower our people to self-manage even more rather than adding additional layers that limits their scope of influence. Yeah. So try to find that intersection and like talk about the differences in philosophy, how SAFe and Scrum view Scrum Master. If you're really good in communicating this, you might be able to engage the senior leaders to go to the other side, right? So hopefully that helps you, Carlos. Thank you for the questions. Let's see. Who else are here? We got 9 people. We got 17 likes. What? Thank you. Thank you for everyone who has joined. 17 likes, and there's around 13, 14 people. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to this live stream. We're just hanging out, chatting about Scrum, how Scrum can improve our agility, our organization agility. We want to have a different perspective on Scrum beyond the mechanics. I think you may have seen the latest post by Eric Neiberg about professional Scrum. Yeah, move away from mechanical Scrum, find value, focus on the value, focus on the core intent and the core value. And that's what we're talking about today. And that's how I've been answering a lot of questions from the viewers today. And we got Hassan. Thank you, Hassan. Yes, I got a blue hair. Yes. That's it. Blue hair. All right. How about this? Oh, it's 8 p.m. in Peru. Oh, yes. I keep on forgetting where you're based. I know you're from South America. I keep on... my geography about South America needs to improve for sure. There's so many countries in South America, right? Yeah, thank you, Carlos. Thank you. Sometimes I thought that you're from Uruguay, or is it Peru, or is it Chile? Keep on getting mixed up. Anyway, how we can combine OKR with some example. I have made a video about that. I'm not sure what's lacking in that video. I think the example in that video also show the outcomes. All right. So maybe you can watch it first, and then maybe you can leave a comment on the, what's still lacking there. Not sure if you've watched it. I'll drop it in the chat. Welcome, everyone. How many people have we got? Ooh, we got 9. This is too awesome. It's up and down. It's quite fluctuative. All right. It seems it's slowing down. But yeah, we had good interaction today. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for all of your support to this channel. Couldn't have done it without you. Looking forward for the next milestone to this channel. Looking forward for the next milestone. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for all of your engagement, like in the comments, in all of my videos, in the pollings that I have made. Yeah, be engaged. I'll still be in touch. I will see you, folks. Looking forward to hearing good news from all of you after implementing the ideas, the insights that I have just shared in today's live stream, folks. Yeah, it's already 12 here. It's lunchtime. Yes, it's already 12 p.m. here. Yes, I think in some cities we got several viewers from Jakarta. We got some from... Carlos is from Peru. I'm not sure if Bena is still with us. She was from Canada. We got many who are engaged in the comment section. Anyway, if you have any other ideas, yeah, just let me know in the comments. Should I do more of this AMA? I did enjoy having the conversation with you folks. Quite a diverse group. Yeah, we got Alicia also. Alicia didn't mention where she was from. We got Hassan engaged in the comment. Rudy and Piso. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you in perhaps my next AMA live stream. I will see you in the comment section of the video. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks.
We break up and you slam the door. I messed up on the bedroom floor. What the hell do we do this for? I push you out but you come back. That attraction, we can't fight that. Oh, keep telling myself that I should let go, but I hold on. And oh, keep telling myself that I should move on, but I don't. 'Cause we got that mad love, we got that sad love, we got that fun love, we got that young love, yeah, that dumb love. 'Cause we got that mad love, we got that sad love, we got that fun love, we got that young love, yeah, that dumb love. We got that, 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 we got that. Kiss me and the world disappears. Tell me the things that I wanna hear. I just wanna stay right here. You push me out, but I come back. That attraction, I can't fight that. Oh, keep telling myself that I should let go, but I hold on. And oh, keep telling myself that I should move on, but I don't. 'Cause we got that mad love, we got that sad love, we got that fun love, we got that young love, yeah, that dumb love. 'Cause we got that mad love, we got that sad love, we got that fun love, we got that young love, yeah, that dumb love. We got that love, we got that, 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 we got that. We got that young love, that young love. We got that young love, that young love. We got that young love, that young love.
You held me back when I tried to move on from your life. So you stole my life with clarity. So hold me back, now you're here. 'Cause I'm mad, show no fear. Wanna let you know just how it felt. Oh no, 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 no. Don't you think we could? There's no way we could be. No, oh no, 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 no. I know the way you look at me, I know it too well. Now I'm bulletproof. You might find you're gone, but I'm flying high. I'm bulletproof. Don't ever touch the ground. You can never bring me down. You can never bring me down.
What's your story? What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life. Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me in the depths of my heart. We're dreamers,